Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We shall now kick off the presentations for the day, and the first session will be done by our General Manager, Service Delivery and PMO, Mr. Hassan Ali. It's time to do some clicks, so please welcome him with some applause emojis on screen. Over to you, Mr. Hassan.
Thank you, Vivendra. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to share with you Oman Data Park strategy and the roadmap of HPC and AI platform, particularly for the banking. So in today's session, we have 5 categories of the discussion. Mainly, we'll take you a quick round about the cloud profile of Oman Data Park. And then we'll go to AI introduction. What is an AI? And what is the definition of AI and the different subsets of the AI? Then we'll cover some of the AI application, particularly for the banking. And then we'll share with you our Oman Data Park AI platforms. And finally, we'll come into the conclusion, where if you have a time, we'll go with the question and answers. Otherwise, there's a later day sessions also open for the question and answers. Now, what is the cloud profiles of Oman Data Park? In short, Oman Data Park have 3 data centers across Oman. 2 are in the capital area, and 1 is in Duqm, which is almost about 600 kilometers away from the Muscat. The primary data center and the disaster data centers is depend on the customer choice. So it's a triangle network. You can put your workload in Duqm and DR in Qom, or even Qom primary and DR in Wataya. The choices goes to the customer. These 3 data centers is running 24/7 for our customer. We have almost 650 customers on board. And of course, thanks God, the number of customers growing into Oman Data Park services portfolio. We have 3 data center, tier 3. So it's tier 3 data centers certified. We have 24/7 services for NOC and SOC, and our also security and surveillance systems is monitored and controlled for across these 3 data centers. Now, Oman Data Park, of course, established in 2011. Since then, the services of the cloud has been exploring day after day. So we were initially from the co-locations, just offering the services and facilities of the data center. Then we have shifted to be infrastructure as a service. And infrastructure service, there are a couple of stacks there, which I'm going to share with you in the following slides. We have Nebola, we have Lagoon, we have Azure, we have also SAP workload. We do have public cloud, and recently we have also Oracle. Thanks God, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is on board, as well as HPC and AI. We're offering different set of platforms from the Linux to Windows, and of course, right now it's Kubernetes as a service. We have a lot of services on the software side, from the Microsoft services, from the Exchange, hosted Exchange, shared Exchange, file cloud, managed services of the 365 as well. You have Odoo, which is ERP application, and the list is quite big. I cannot share all of them in this one slide. Side by side, we are offering managed services and unmanaged. The choices goes to the customer. If he's interested, Oman Data Park to do the full management of their infrastructure or platforms, as well as the software, we go to that level as well. We do managed service for software, mainly of Microsoft Active Directory, Exchange, File Cloud, and many other services on the software layer. With the professional services, yes, we do help a lot of organizations where banking is one of our verticals. And we do networking services and cloud migration. We have migrated many organizations for the last 2 years from the being co-location or on-prem data center into the cloud. We have also covering the Oracle technologies. We have a big portfolio of the Oracle services also. And we also are offering a lot of migration from the disaster recovery and business continuity for those customers who still wants to maintain their primary data center and they don't have a DR. Now, This slide is very important. I would like your full attention if you manage to understand the slides in my talk. And if you couldn't catch up some of these points, you are welcome to put it in the query of emails and we'll reply you back. This slide is very important for the migration of the journey towards the cloud. Now, on the left side, you see on-prem, you have complete your data center facilities, chiller, HVAC, generator, UPS, access control. All of these facilities have been set in order to equip with your active components, which is server, network, storages, and then go software layers, which is virtualization, operating systems, and finally your application data. So the first milestone, a couple of customers came, they said, we want to just get the colo. So when you take co-location services from Oman Data Park, we'll give you a rack from 3 kilowatt to 6 kilowatt to 7 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, 15 kilowatt, and 20 kilowatts. So that's your choice. You can use the power you want. From there, still you have your own equipment. You capitalize this equipment. You operate this equipment. You license, and there's a lot of cost goes here as well. So by greening, putting a green, the greens mean like outsourcing. When you outsource your colo, there are 30% cost cut. 30% in only operating. Imagine there's no capex, there's zero capex. Just in the operating, you are reducing 30% and above. That is, of course, starting from 30. So the more racks you have, the more the ratio of the cost cutting goes up. So now I want to green my infrastructure components. And you jump here, infrastructure as a service, and here starting up with the 30% to 40% cost cut, zero capex, and here Oman Data Park will take the full responsibility of your complete active components, and we'll give you based on your workload requirement. When you come to the platforms, but still you pay the licenses here. When you come to the platform, even the license here is not it's called a SPLA. The more it is payable based on the rent which you're doing. You're not buying perpetual license of the software up front. No. So, for example, you want to bring, let's say, Microsoft Exchange, for example, and you want to use it for 6 months or 10 months or 1 year. So you don't need to buy the full licenses. You pay based on the time you use. And lastly, you go to the application layer. You do nothing. Just you come in, for example, SAP as a service. You don't want to go buy the equipment of the SAP workload and put the SAP workload and start customizing it. Where you need, maybe there are 30 modules: account payable, account receivable, inventory, stock control, asset liability management, let's say even investment activities. All of these you can rent it from Oman Data Park rather than procuring it. So what we did, this is the layers which is showing of each what's called outsourcing concept. Now the first is the data center, second is the infrastructure, third is the platforms. Now introduced which is Docker as a service, mainly containers as a service, which comes and support your microservices environment. And here we are offering two of them now. The first one is Kubernetes and OpenShift. We do have OpenShift, but it's dedicated. Kubernetes, the share. And then you can break your monolithic application into micro-segmented. This will give you a complete freedom to break down your existing applications into a microservices and sell it. What is the selling point of your existing infrastructure as a service? We're going to guide you through the coming slides. By the way, the whole environment is secured at each layers. Now, what Oman Data Park wants to put a message to you here, don't take the challenges of all these infrastructure layers. Just leave it to ODP or any cloud service provider and focus on your application, your data. You have a data. Banks have a lot of data. How I can use that data to generate information and generate opportunity. Therefore, we have introduced HPC. So in this cycle, we have already serving different verticals from, as I said, from the colo to infra to platform to the software, and we're giving them a complete freedom there. They start looking these data and generate opportunities. And we have also put a couple of theory on this behind to show you in the later slides. So what is our offers today? We have, this is tax on board. We have Nibola, which is a very high-class virtualized environment. We have Lagoon, we have Red Hat, we have Oracle OVM, and we have HPC right now in AI. We have Azure, we have public cloud, and we have also Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And completely is operating on the software-defined compute, storage, network, access, storage, services, data centers, and infrastructure end-to-end. So these are completely embedded within these solutions. So you might pick and choose based on your workload environment. So by this offers, we see where we are able to cover the complete market's requirement. Fine. Having said this, let's go try to understand the basic and concept of what is an AI. Well, before we go to the AI, we need to know the HPC, high performance computing, which is the core of the AI. It's at the heart of the AI. HPC is used in industry to improve the product, reduce the cost, and decrease the time to develop the new product and services. HPC is mainly for this. HPC is running on parallel processing, where it shortcuts a lot of time and effort from the normal legacy applications. So why we need HPC? HPC has been coined from 1950s. Likewise, AI. But it didn't come into the fact because it was lacking behind of the data. So data is the prime, is the soul of the HPC and AI. The growth of the data today is going to zettabyte, and IoT, of course, is generating a lot of information. For example, your mobile is IoT, is generating a lot of information. Likewise, cameras, likewise, a lot of IoT devices coming right now on a daily basis. The 5G networking, the speed of the networks is growing fast. So these three main inputs, which is being right now, head the HPC to boom up. Therefore, from that perspective, AIs came to introduce machine learning and deep learning. So, what is an AI? AI is, if you try to define the AI is not a product. AI is a theory or a science that empowers the computers to develop the applications. So it is a science. It combines of multiple subsystems such as machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing. In concept, what it's trying to do is trying to mimic human brains. So for example, our brains, how it works. You're feeding him the information. I do see a picture right now, for example. I know this is animal, this is human, this is, for example, a computer. Each object, it comes in the form of a data into our mind, and then start transforming to be an information. And how that can be exactly copied into the computer. So therefore, computer came with the computers called vision systems. Computer visions is taking the pictures and start learning. So entire AI is depending on the learning curve. So AI, in short, is a combination of multiple subsystems, and in theory, it is empowering the applications to grow and mimic humans' behavior. Now, as I said, there are major changes happening for the last couple of years in the computing power. We know there are 4 major processors right now in the market, which is Intel, AMD, ARM. Okay, ARM is also on board. Intel, AMD, ARM, IBM power chips. All of these chips it was in 8 bits, then 16 bit, then 32, and now 64 bits. So the technology of the CPUs has been grown fast. But that's still running in sequential mode. So when actually a new processor start demand coming that we need a parallel processing, therefore GPU came into the order. So GPU came to do the parallel processing side by side with the CPU, opening you the power capabilities of processing a lot of data that CPU needs an edge to process in a very small timeline in microseconds as well. And not to mention that quantum computing is coming also in the following decade, hopefully. So that power of computer and the growth of the data mandated, okay, the applications have to be changed from being legacy environment into a complete data learning environment. So in algorithm is the heart. Algorithm is the brilliant. It is like heart, or it's a mind. It's a brilliant ideas where you build a specific reason or problems for any specific application. And I'll give an example how, for example, healthcare is using the MRI to diagnose from being 5 hours doctors doing into less than 40 seconds. So all of this is being built around smart algorithm. Now, here we are our journey is starting. Now we have to know the AI domain. There are a couple of domains this is not all of them, of course. I'm just trying to highlight the major one. We have knowledge base, we have computer vision, we have expert system, we have deep learning, we have natural language processing, and we have machine learning. So let's take quickly the one. A knowledge base is the technology used to process complex structured and unstructured data to build fully knowledgeable systems. Like what? Like Google search. Now, while you're typing the Google text, it is proposing you the intelligence. So it's completely taking your complete structured type and try to find for you the right statement for searching. This is a very knowledge-based environment, which is everyone's using on daily basis. Another one is an expert system. Expert system is an artificial intelligence emulating the decision-making ability of human into DSS, which is dynamic support systems. And here, what we can do, we can, for example, use it in a banking. Shall we give this loan or not? Shall we do this deal or not? And here, the expert system is being built around your ecosystems. Computer vision, of course, as I said, computer vision is like the eyes of the human. Okay, it's taking the pictures and start learning. Oh, this object is the car. This object is the computer. This object is the phone. This object is an animal. What type of animal? Start learning. So start feeding. There's a big library of objects which is fed into the computer vision, and then after that, its learning curve has been done. So what you can do simply, you can flood the computer vision with 1 million of pictures, and you can segregate it. This is human, this is not human, and it's not human. Is it animal? Is it dog? Is it cat? So imagine that have been transformed, and therefore Tesla car, for example, is using heavily the computer vision, aside of others, of course, because it have to see the pictures of the roads. It have to see objects which is around the cars. So this is being heavily used right now. Also, machine learning. Machine learning, as I said, is an application of an AI that provides the ability to automatically learn. This is the beauty of it. It's learning. Computer learns from the data. What you feed him, then learns. And after that, it uses this data and this learning to take decisions. So machine learning is heavily used in all type of application, of course. Banking is one of them. Deep learning. Deep learning is a kind of AI application that uses the supervised and unsupervised model by itself. So deep learning is using a neural network. It's using in our mind. If you look, there are billions of cells, of neural cells, and they interconnect. So they mimic the same one into the computer in order to do a complete unsupervised learning and try to tell you from the pattern of the data, you are under risk or you are not under risk. Likewise, the natural language processing. Now I'm talking to you, you understand the language. So imagine the computer is talking to you the same. Of course, not 100% like human, but let's say the accuracy goes from 50% to 60%, and they start enhancing it. So right now, I do see some of the NLPs claiming they are even 90% the tops is going to the accuracy. This can help a lot of the banking call center as well. So the applied AI, as I said, neural network planning, robotics, machine learning, NLP, perception, knowledge, cognitive systems, all of these have been applied somehow in each kind of verticals. For example, for banking is one way, for energy sectors another way. But the fundamental of all of these are the same. So they are completely depend on the smart algorithms. By building the smart algorithm and the large set of the data, this is coming out. So let's give an example. ML, virtual personal assistants. Siri and Alexa, we are using it. Okay, this is ML, this is machine learning. Another example of deep learning, let's say image coloring and facial recognition. Now, computer can know this is you or not. And I'm showing one of the example. If one of the customer have his card and he gave this card to his wife or his son, and they went to the ATM and withdrawn the cash. That picture can be captured, and the deep learning can say, yeah, despite this card and PIN is correct, but this face not to the same customer, and push you a message. Imagine how beauty is this. Knowledge, of course, Google search, because as I told you, knowledge base. NLP, we talk to in our phone to the Google voice recognition systems, and robotic car manufacturing, soft robotic automation, and not to mention the cognitive, which is provide the accuracy based on the investment recommendation. That is also an application which is running for the bank, financial advisor, they're calling it. So going into the heart, the AI, as I said, is a combination of multiple subsets, and machine learning is an algorithm which performs, improve, and expose the data over time. So it's a learning process there. And deep learning is a subsystems which is operating based on the neural network, providing the real information. Now let's go to how we can use this in the banks. Now, in the bank, we have data. We have to differentiate what is the data and information. Data could be a picture, could be a statement, could be any transaction, but it's meaningless. Okay, set of data, a lot of data is there. But when I transform this data into a meaningful information, that something means something valuable, that's called information. Organized from the process. You have to process that data. You have to cook that data in order to make something valuable to you. Data doesn't depend on information, but information, of course, depends on data. So in data, I have a data, but I don't have the information. So we need to use this data to generate the information. Of course, data are measured in bits, in byte, in kilobyte, in megabyte, terabyte. Information cannot measure in that. Information measured in a meaningful, kind of action that you can take it. So you depend on information, you're not depending on data, though you have data. So how we can translate this into information? Here we can offer Oman Data Park for you a big data with the HPC. So what you can do, you can collect a different set of the structure and non-structured data, this information, such as your document, what's called vouchers and all videos, audios, all of that type of data, and you correlate them through a very smart algorithm in order to segment, for example, your customers. For example, you need to segment your customer based on their worth, for example. We can do a lot of quality of service. Also, big data is giving you a lot of information, decision support system for lending the profession, at least to lend. For lending, at least there's a lot of calculation and you need information to process in order to give this deal or not. So this requires a complete cognitive pricing decisions. So here it can help you very attractively. You can formulate a competitive strategy from the market real time. See, right now, if you ask any organization, how are you analyzing the market? Based on the humans try to read the information from the net or from the newspaper and it's been on human now, okay? But each one, how much data he can handle. So here that the big data can read a lot of information from different markets. And here I very aggressively focusing on the social media. You can read a lot of information from social media. There's it's a potential business happens on the social media, but banks are away from there. And for example, you require proper, let's say you're formulating the competitive strategy for the market in real time. You need proper tools to help you on this, and the big data in Hadoop, for example, with real financial advisors that can help you. Fraud detection, of course, nothing to do with the big data, but big data are source for the fraud detections. So a lot of information can be formulated from the big data and fed to the fraud detection systems or prevention system. There's detection and there's prevention as well. To do market analysis as well, gathering the social media, as I said to you. The call center would like to know 365 degrees of the customer profile and his history and transactions. And here I know a case which was said by Royal Bank of Scotland. They said that our call center was getting 100,000 inquiry per day, and our agents were not able to support. So they implemented a complete AI solution, and they integrated with the big data to generate complete overview of the customers. And it was almost covered within a very short time, and increase the upscale and upscale and cross sell as well to their customer from the data which was provided by Hadoop. So how we can help local banks? Aside of just we giving you a platform, this is just a theory, it's just recommending here. Now you can integrate with different social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and fetch the market information and analyze it. You can do this. You can generate a lot of market potential from the Instagrams and Facebook and WhatsApp. You are already, maybe or not, you can integrate with the Royal Oman Police, the Ministry of Manpower, Ministry of Higher Education, and so on and so forth. Therefore, we proposing you to get connected with these data sources and key success, what's called the partners, in order to generate a lot of business potential. Here also, we propose you to do lending based for SME based on the transaction flow, rather than just reading the normal legacy information from the customer's profile. Like in China, for example, China is doing lending based on the SME, based on the transaction flow. And also here, we recommend that you break the silos network which you have on, and then try to connect with the market, try to connect with all these partners, and bring the information and sell the information as well. The HPCs here can facilitate. Of course, you need a very high performance environment. So that also can be facilitated from Oman Data Park. Now, fraud detection, we know every banks have fraud detection system, but fraud detection systems cannot correlate different operational environment. Like you have omni-channels, different transaction happens on omni-channels, you have trade finance, you have dealing system, you have investment. You need to correlate all of these transactions. Aside of the frauds which is happening on every day, there's a new patterns which is happening on the net. So this system is being trained on 1 million of fraudulent and non-fraudulent transactions, which can which can ensure the prediction accuracy and reduce the false positive as well as false negative of prediction. Of example, let's say an example here is AWS. AWS offering you a complete pipe of services where you can inquire of the transaction pattern, and it will give you to proceed or not. Fraud analysis, of course, here is a very good example, and these algorithms are enhancing in a very smart way. I also highlighted previously that someone is using ATM transactions and card doesn't belong him. You can also catch up that information and send it to the back office or to the customer. The machine learning ability here to compare each transaction against the account history. And then he says this is not a genuine transaction, or it's suspicious here, something's happening wrong. And he can alert you immediately. Surveillance. Now, imagine if there's a surveillance problem, there's a problem happening on any ATM. So the only way you need to do, or even on the cashier, so only the way you do it, to start taking all the record from your surveillance and watch it. You can't find the information unless you watch it by yourself. You need an hours to watch these surveillance records. But here, no, it can do a complete computer vision and find the object and give you the timeline where to see the real video. So here we encourage also, this is a solution which can be offered. See, there are a couple of theories and practical models which can be put for the local banks, and I do see these are which came into my mind. For non-banking financial services such as insurance, broker, investment funds, pension funds, equity firms, asset, all of these can be used into HPC and AI. Credit underwriting, of course, digital loan, real-time offering of the customer, all of these, which is on the screen, can be simplify your daily processes. And lastly, the last one, which is artificial intelligent financial advisor. This is very good application, and can simplify your customers to do this investment or not. As well, can be used internally as well to grant the loan or not. Now, risk-based, if you look at from the risk, company face recognition, as I was saying, can be heavily used. Identifying the risk and monitoring, prioritizing your risk factors to steps into the managed activity of the transactions. A company have various data like consumer information, customer information, financial statement. All this also require a very depth control on the risk analysis as well. So this is not only just you offer the service, but also you need to control it. So here, and it should be in very fast manner, very fast manner to avoid the risk. For example, if you noted one of the gang have doing a transaction, you want to catch up this gang's transaction after 12 hours, then you lost a lot of money. But you need on very fast manner to calculate this risk and immediately action on that. We are offering also to analyze the credit worthiness, especially when companies employee. All of these can be implemented with a very smart algorithm and the transaction based. Now, robo-advisor, as I said to you, that can be used. Especially there are two examples. I have put Betterment and Wealthfront. These two companies are using the robo-advisor heavily. You can go and search it on the net. It can give you a lot of information how that has been considered from the targeting, expected return, risk appetite, as well as accurate financial advice. So this is a very good example. We do see we can implement on our existing infrastructure as well. If you have a lot of million of documents and you want to digitize that, of course, HP is the key here. It is not only digitizing, but it can use OCR as well, optical character recognition, and that can translate this into graphics and text as well. It's going to shortcut a lot of times. One real example we see here, maybe reading the emails. Reading the emails, if I, for example, want to read all the emails of my employee, perhaps all the emails of my customer, and I want some kind of human brains to come here and try to correlate the text of that email and whether this is important email or not. Or I want to know my staff, how they are working and do they spend a lot of time on the quality of the service of the customer or their personal work. I don't know. So here you can filter a lot of these text and AI can give you suspicious cases and also route it to specific, for example, stations. So let's say 100,000 email comes to the call center, they cannot support, of course. But here he can facilitate, the AI can look which is the genuine or important email which needs attention and route it immediately to the right department to take an action. So here is AI is heavily used as well. Chatbot, I think we are all using AWS chatbot and even other service of chatbot where you can have the customer's activity, customer problem. But right now, if you go to the call center, IVR is static. So once you want, for example, account transfer and you have a problem, IVR cannot help you. But here, chatbot can help you. He can take the transactions, he can diagnose, he can go to very depth level of cognitive processes and interact with the customers and serve a lot of your daily processes. And then if he, in some of the suspected cases or cases which need high attention, then he is going to route it to the agent. ODP platform, we can offer you a platforms where you like a virtual lab from the HPC. And I think here what we're trying to simplify for you, that you can use the deep learning, machine learning, and all kind of CODA development and toolkits from your offices, and start experimenting into our existing HPC environment. So we are offering it for the enterprise user, developer, mobile. So this is not particularly for the bank, this slide, but ultimately this slide is important that banks can use that platforms as well for developing as well. And here we are completely integrated with the workspace as a service. So make sure the security is in place, and you can use from the end users here, can use all of these applications from the bank or from the ODP HPC as well. Conclusion is the traditional applications, the monolithic applications, going to die. It's not, it cannot survive more with this number of and size of the data, and the growth of the data, and the increasing of the new demand of the application. The old applications like languages and the development software is going to die. It's a new applications coming on board, and AI is one of them. AI is regenerating the code. In AI, there's nothing called, there's a codeless environment. It looks to the data, and it filters the data and does the process based on the smart algorithm. So this is going to come. It's slowly. So banks have to consider that now. There's a movement happening now in the world towards the Microsoft. And I gave an example here of Monzo Bank. Monzo Bank, for example, is running completely from scratch on the Kubernetes. They have almost 4.5 million customers on board, and they claim $67 million revenue yearly, and they don't have single branch. So everything comes into an HPC and AI with the Kubernetes environment. Some of the quick example here, not particular for the bank. Google search engine, JP Morgan is very heavily been used for the analyzing legal document. Healthcare, as I said, that can do a complete diagnosis of the previous healthcare record and tell you whether you're going to get these diseases or not, or they give you prescription of your healthcare and your case, for example. Google AI, doctors using it, for example. Facebook recognition, facial recognition, Twitter AIs. All of these are using the AI in a way or another. So what we are saying, Oman Data Park, of course, we are not comparing ourselves with the big giant, but we are saying your data is in Oman. Your data is secured. We have a complete regulation and control of your data. We're fulfilling the entire regulation of the country. We are fulfilling the compliances. And we are offering complete managed service in Oman, and your data is completely secured. So Oman Data Park have an advantage by being a local service provider versus international, because we comply with the internal regulation. Lastly, what I'm trying to say, cloud services and cloud software as a service is the future. ODP can play major roles within this transformation. We, as a cloud service provider, can transform not only like one or two or three. We can transform a big number of customers into a cloud, being IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. And not to mention that HPC and AI is the future, and that platform is ready for you. And you have to be part of this ecosystem. Your journey will also start to think how I can utilize the power of the existing infrastructure. In the new transformation which is happening towards the cloud and HPC and AI, you have to formulate yourself within this strategy, and you have to be part of this ecosystem. I hope that was informative session, and though I couldn't cover it at maximum, but from here I have at least to hand over back to Vindra, and thank you very much. Appreciate it. Should you have any question, please raise a message to Vivendra, and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Hassan. I think we have a hand from Khalid. Let's see what Khalid wants to say. Khalid, I'm going to bring you on stage. You can ask your question live, or you can ask it. It's from Ali's Bank. Yes, welcome, Khalid. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Khalid. Go ahead, please. You're on stage.
Hassan, thank you so much. Very informative session, and very happy, that you're bringing all this AI infrastructure in country, really for us to start really looking at it and utilizing it in some of our solutions. So thank you so much, Hassan. Amazing efforts. My question is on the big data. You mentioned that some of the sources of big data, like social media and of course the local data. There is big data which is being sold, for example, by Oman Tel and Ooredoo and others for.
الصوت اختفى عندي.
Hassan, can you hear me? Can you hear me or no?
Yes, go ahead, Khalid. We can carry on then.
Okay, I think Hassan is not able to hear me.
Hassan, you're on mute.
No, I just heard Hassan saying that he cannot hear me.
I couldn't hear the question.
Okay, so my question is on the big data. You mentioned that the various sources of big data, like social media and as well as the local sources. Do you have any connectivity to those resources? And if we want, for example, to avail data from some of those social media, where does Oman Data Park play a role here? Or is that something that we have to contract directly with the social media providers? Or does Oman Data Park play a role here? That's my question. Okay, maybe I should type it then. Okay, let me type it here.
Sorry, Khalid, I think there was a lag in the connection. So your basic question was with regard to big data, if I'm not mistaken, and you wanted to know how ODP can assist you as a bank in terms of managing the big data as opposed to what you can get from the telecom providers of Oman Tel and Ooredoo, correct?
For example, the local ones as well as the international one. I mean, the international social media sources. Where can Oman Data Park assist in availing this data? And what role do they play in connecting us to this data? That's what I wanted to.
Yeah. You can hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Hassan.
All right. If I understood the question, because I was not able to hear correctly, but he was saying how Oman Data Park can assist in integrating with the social media, and the question was if that can be facilitated within the existing activity. Is that the question, correct?
Correct, yes.
There's a disruption happening on my.
Yeah, that's the question. I'm waiting for the answer, Hassan.
Okay, Khalid, if you don't mind, I'm going to get back to you separately on the text maybe, and maybe we can take this up as a discussion at the end of the session. But thank you very much for coming on screen. It's nice to see the big question, the first question. So welcome and thank you for taking the stage. And with this, we shall conclude the session for Hassan, and we shall be back again in a few minutes with our next presentation under the subject Applied AI for loan processing. Meanwhile, please stay online and continue the networking. Thank you.